Oh, thank you, Jay. That's a mistake of doing a good pitch without having the mute button switched off. I'll go one more time. Welcome everybody to another session from us at Dreamdata. Today we're super lucky to be joined by two experts. That is Christine from G2 and Jay, who just started your own consultancy called
GTM Ops Agency.
DJM Ops Agency. And today we're going to be talking about something that plays a big part of at least Dreamdata's go-to-market, but also a lot of our customers' go-to-market, which is reviews and intent data, and particularly G2, where Christine works, which I think is more and more becoming the dominant review platform, at least in that little bubble where I live. But before we get started and talk about all the things we want to talk about today, let's just do a quick intro to you, Jay and Christine. Jay, maybe you can lead out talking. Maybe why did you start an agency, and what is that agency doing nowadays?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I've been running sales and marketing operations for early stage B2B SaaS companies for over 12 years now. And with the current market conditions, I think it's harder for early stage companies to raise the Series A, Series B rounds and build an internal RevOps function. But I think RevOps is key. Revenue architecture, applying some proven frameworks like the winning by design model, building a revenue engine, or revenue factory is key to hitting success in the scale stage. So offering my services on a fractional basis, so earlier stage companies can benefit from the RevOps practice essentially.
And you used to be a very savvy Dreamdata user as well. And today we're trying to kind of combine those two things, because you also used to be a very savvy G2 customer as well. So hopefully we can get that message out today, that those two products works great together and are very valuable. But Christine, maybe you can also just intro the people. I think most people would know G2, but what's kind of your job and focus at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. Hey, everyone. I'm Christine Lee. I lead our global partnerships organization at G2. I've been here for 3.5 years, and what my team does is we work on all the integrations, the marketplace partnerships, the syndication partnerships that really drive the value for our customers, and make sure that you're maximizing your investments on G2 with all the product offerings that we put together. Now, before joining G2, I've been in B2B marketing my whole career. Even today at G2, we sell a B2B marketing product. And so I have been on both sides, either as a marketer or selling to marketers. And I just love this space.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christine. Before we get into the meat of it, just a little bit of structure. So just to get everybody on board that is listening and watching today, I'm going to give Christine a few like the basic questions of intent data to explain that. Then I'm going to just do a quick live demo of how G2 and Dreamdata works together, so we get everybody on the same board. And then we're going to open it up for a broader discussion about everything related to understanding the ROI of intent data and how to act on it in your company. So Christine, on to the kind of getting people on board to what intent data is. How would you explain what G2 intent data is, and why is it becoming increasingly popular to have as part of your go-to-market plans?
Yeah, maybe I'll just start off in saying what G2 is. G2 is the largest B2B software and services marketplace in the world. We have collected over 2.5 million reviews, hundreds of thousands of product listings. And it really is where buyers go to research a software product or service that's going to be right for their business. Now, we've all heard of the stat that 95% of buyers that you target are not actually in market. And your job as marketers is to nurture and drive awareness and recognition with those 95%, which absolutely is true. Now, the 5% who are in market, they're on G2. You don't go to G2 on a Friday evening scrolling to just for fun, right? You go to G2 with an intentional purpose. You're there because you have a business problem. You have an idea of what the solution is. You're searching on the solution, you find G2, you go in there, you start researching about the solution. And then when you're making your short list of vendors that you're going to go and evaluate further with, you go to G2 to read those reviews, to validate some of the hunches that you have, right? To glean the insights on what the product is strong in, what they're weak in, and what your company cares most about. Yeah, all of that buyer behavior that is happening on G2, we turn that into intent signals. They're account level. They tell you where the buyer is in their journey on G2. And I think that's really important to distinguish here is A, we tell you what accounts are in market to buy. B, the signals tell you where they are in their buying journey so that you can meet them wherever they are. And so this is what I get so excited. It's like a challenge that I've been trying to solve my whole entire career. And I feel like with G2, the intent signals are there for marketers to meet their next best customer wherever they are in their journey.
Yeah, and I think maybe we should just jump straight into it and look a bit at some of the intent signals, because we at Dreamdata also introduced recently some benchmarks that really confirms where they are in the cycle. So I'll just pull it up and go a little bit, let's call it off script, to show you. Now I need to click a button. So can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Then I'll just show you here one of the things that we were really excited about, which is this model here, where we've taken a look at the data, the intent data that G2 makes available. And as you said, Christine, they come in different sorts. There's the category list, where people are just starting to browse. Okay, I need a tool that does something like this. Who are the vendors that I should be speaking with? Then it gets more and more intense as people move into specific profiles and read up on them. And I think that where you really need to drop whatever you have in your hands and start calling these people are when they start comparing you against your competition. And here it takes an average of just 63 days from whenever they do this until they buy. So it's really true that I think the category is great if you're not really, it's not a company that you're not already aware about, but you need to make them aware about yourself, because now they're actually starting to showcase a behavior where they're buying. Christine, does this this is our data, and it's not the world's largest data pool that we've collected here, but does that reflect what you see also on the G2 side?
100%. And I think some of the mistakes that I see marketers make is first, they don't recognize the differences in the intent signals and the stages of the buyer journey. They just kind of lump everything together into, and it may be some baggage that they've had from other intent sources that they've worked with. All they're looking at is the account identification, and they're not looking more into what stage they're in. To your point, Stefan, like as a marketer, I would never show the same creative to someone who is on the bottom of the funnel, ready to make a decision. They already have their short list, they've done their demos, like they're ready to buy. The same call to action as someone who is early in their research, looking at the categories, still roaming and not sure what solution to buy or to consider, right? They're two very different buying stages. And so what I often see is folks kind of ignoring that and bucketing all the intent signals into one campaign. They call it an intent campaign, and it really isn't, because it's really not intentional.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll go ahead, Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
No, I was just say I totally agree. That's a good point, and I think G2 is unique as well in identifying signals that are bottom of funnel. A lot of intent signals, like doing research on a specific topic or visiting the website, and it's really hard to infer where they are in the buying journey.
And we're already getting into the weeds of it, because also the category signal is probably now you switch on the ads. But if it's a compare signal, this is where your sales team needs to get involved and be a bit more aggressive than just politely serving ads to people.
Yes, and another common mistake I see people do is, especially if you're a demand gen marketer, you go for the bottom funnel signals. That's all you focus on.
Yeah.
And what happens is that you serve them like demo ads, right? A lot of times. And unfortunately, this audience is actually beyond your demo. They're ready to make a decision. Sending them demo ads is just it just annoys them, right? It becomes noise. And where you should be going is thinking about how do you line up your next pipeline and go after the category or the profile views. So it's a bit of a nuance and education that is required. And I think, Jay, you've had a lot of experiences in doing this, so good job.
Thank you.
Oh, I will do the quickest of intros to just show people how the two products work together, because I think everybody intuitively knows that the intent data is for real and it's really valuable. But one of the things I love about our own product is that the ability how to make it visual as part of the customer journeys. And I'm just going to show this to people so they see how visible the G2 intent data can become. And Rachel and Jay, Christine and Jay, feel free to supplement me as a demo here. I'll just do the quickest of intros to what Dreamdata is. We basically help our customers understand how they get customers. And that is particularly B2B companies that we help out. And the way we do that is by taking all the data that they have available in the go-to-market tech stack about how they get customers. We pull that out of whatever silo that it lives within today. That is typically CRM systems, marketing automation platforms, ad platforms. It's the intent data from G2. And once we pull it out of all of these silos, our algorithms then models all this data into nice, clean timelines of every account that you deal with. That enables you to analyze the ROI of your activities. You can access the refined data models yourself. And you can also use this data to push it into other platforms, for example, LinkedIn. Now, how do you get G2 and Dreamdata joined? It's actually really, really, really simple. You go to the integration hub in G2. You generate an API key. You then open up your Dreamdata account, which is free to create. And then you insert the API key. And the next time the data model runs, it's able to go and fetch all the intent data that G2 makes available from you and then plot it into nice, clean customer journeys. Now, I'm just going to show you how this looks inside Dreamdata's demo account. What you'll see here is that I've selected G2 as a signal. And then you'll see down here, I have a list of a lot of different brands that has this signal from G2. Now, I can do multiple filtering.
Stefan, sorry to interrupt. We're not there. We go. Now we're seeing it.
Sorry. I'll just continue from here. So what I see here is that we offer the opportunity to look at signals from your website, from LinkedIn ads, and from G2. And what I've done here is I've marked the G2, the intent data that we now see that is in. And then I have a list of all the accounts that has signals from G2. And then you can click on the specific account. And then you get into this view where if I highlight the G2 button here, then you'll see here, okay, here's an actual category signal from G2, in this case, the attribution category. I can also decide to say, let me look at all the deals we won the last year where G2 was part of the journeys. What? Let's refresh here. And then you can see which of the deals you won where G2 played an actual role. Oh. Let me just.
I can confirm this doesn't happen in production.
Yeah, how it works, I don't know what that is. But so here's 18 deals of a value of 400,000, where G2 was a part of all these journeys.
You're not sharing your screen anymore.
Oh, sorry about this.
No problem.
All this live pressure. I'll go here. Let me just go back one screen. So we have the opportunity to take deals at any given kind of time period, and we can select whatever stage of our funnel that we're interested in. and I select G2 as a source here. And there's 18 deals of a value of 400,000 in this case. And then you can click again on each of the deals, and you'll be able to pull out any of the signals you want. But in this case, we can look at the G2 signals. Again, there's some category here. There's profile view, and then there's, what do we have here? A more category. So this is a strong signal for the salespeople to start getting involved in this deal, that this account is frequently looking at G2. I mean, showing that there's some kind of intent that is heating up here. But that's the first things that I wanted to show. And Jay, you've been operating this yourself. How has that been?
It's been enlightening. You know, we saw multiple touch points in some of the journeys that you showed. What we discovered is there's a lot of people that are starting their journey with G2, and it's quite early in the buying process. On a lot of our timelines, we can see the movement from consideration to decision to or evaluation to decision, and the consideration stage often starts like 12 to 18 months even before they engage with the company and start comparing solutions and making their short list, especially as you go higher up, I guess, enterprise or larger corporations.
Super nice. If we then move into kind of maybe talking more about the ROI of G2, we also have a very effective report to showcase this. So we're able to take the cost that you have associated to your G2 intent data, and we are able to compare that data against what are you actually getting out of G2. So here's a report that is called return on investment. Again, I can mark my source here, and you can see here's an old subscription of $12,000. And you can see how many prospects has been influenced. In this case, it's sales opportunities. 84 prospects at a value of $3 million. If I want to be more critical about the quality, I can even move as far as saying it has to be new business. Again, here there's nice relationship between what are we paying, how many company account signals are we getting, and how many deals did we win, and what is the value of this. So the next time kind of you're having this debate, either inside your company or with your account manager at G2, whether a renewal makes sense, quite typically this comes out very much in the favor of G2 because the intent data is actually super valuable. Cool. What's next? Christine, this kind of ROI component, I know this is a lot of thing. One of the reasons why you've reached out to a lot of partners. What is the work that I think, and I also see it inside of my G2. There's been more and more work being done to highlight the ROI of the intent data that we've all know has been there, but it's perhaps been underappreciated until now.
Yeah. I think it's definitely, there is the illuminating of the ROI piece that absolutely needs to be there, right? But I think what it also, the second piece with that is probably even more important is by analyzing the data and by laying it out visually as you have, we're able to learn and study what the data is showing us in order to drive the next best action, right? And I think that's what's really unique and why I love this partnership so much with Dreamdata is you're a platform that starts and anchors on ROI, that then creates actionable insights for marketers to optimize and activate their campaigns. That's like flipping the switch, right? Because in a lot of cases, when you think about ad platforms, we start with activation. You start with the activation efficiency, and then you may have some like reporting analytics as an afterthought. But you all have switched that, like flip that switch. And I think it's really cool because that will help our mutual customers understand a lot better on their intent signals and what they need to do after seeing their signals in Dreamdata.
Nice. And Jay, kind of maybe we can start to drill into all your practical experience here about how to utilize the intent data from G2. What did you do at Chameleon once you had all these different signals coming into the platform?
I mean, it was an iterative approach over a long period of time, but I think the first thing that we decided to do is, well, get a better understanding of how G2 impacts our buyer journeys to see if it can inform any adjustments to our process. And the other part was routing the signals for action. And I guess kind of twofold approach there. I think there's some signals that are best for marketing to nurture, and some signals that are best for a joint nurture between sales and marketing. So top of the funnel signals typically would be synced to ad audiences for brand awareness campaigns, especially if they're looking at the category or competitors and not viewing our profile. Whereas somebody in the decision stage, looking at comparisons, looking at our page, would be routed directly to sales, with additional like filtering, firmographic filtering for ICP fit. Are they a target account to help prioritize the action? Yeah.
And what was the experience working with the marketing and sales team, saying that now you need to pay attention to this data because it's actually really strong signals for us?
I think it was mainly met with excitement. Having a reliable source of data that companies in your ICP are actually in market looking for a solution to a pain point you can solve is extremely valuable. I don't know a single salesperson or a single marketer that would say, I don't want to get a list fed to me of high intent buyers that meet my ICP. So yeah, it was met with a lot of excitement and a lot of brainstorming and creativity on how to action them, how to tailor the outreach, the messaging to the nature of the intent signal, which is what came with a lot of iteration over time, and really, I guess, compounded the results that we were getting from that nurturing.
And I think that kind of, what to do in terms of creatives and outreach is really what I'm also super interested in, because we haven't taken excessive steps to personalize a lot, which is probably also maybe sometimes limiting the response that you get. I've also gone the stalking route sometimes, just sending a screenshot to who I think it would probably have been on an account, saying that somebody from your company at this location looked at our profile. Was that you? And sometimes there's a good response, sometimes there's a bad response. But Christine, what? It's better than not asking. But I don't know, Christine. What do people like? What is the best way to kind of utilize or like kind of join personalization together with the intent data?
Yeah, I think what Jay mentioned is a perfect example of how you can align your sales and marketing activities with using the same data, right? And it's almost like you're being like a command center. These type of signals go to a marketing campaign, so we're going to add them into that type of nurture campaign. These type of signals are going into a sales team, and we're going to create plays to support those type of signals. So I think, for an example, another partner of ours, ZoomInfo, does a really good job in creating these type of go-to-market plays depending on the intent signal that's used, and how they display it, either in their platform or in another one. On the sales side, Jay, you can probably speak to this. You need to get that contact level enrichment, right? Either from a third-party enrichment tool, or like just even going on to LinkedIn and searching up that company. The intent signal is intended to give you a lead, but it's not going to tell you exactly precisely who that person is. And that's okay. There are enough tools out there today, whether paid or unpaid, that you can use to supplement to get down to the right contact you should be reaching out to. I think another piece, Stefan, that you were mentioning was I love your stalker approach. I think we should bucket that up together and make a playbook out of
saying
it.
It's great.
But I do think there's something to be said about, hey, we saw 5 people from your company researching in the last week, right?
Mm.
It may not be you, but we're seeing more interest than just from one unique person. And that's data that we also have. And I always tell our customers, like, hey, if you're seeing scatter of intent signals, and then all of a sudden in 1 week, you're seeing a large spike in the number of unique visitors that are researching, that should be a cue to you that they are very close to a decision point. And so even calling that out with speaking to the buyers is helpful, because they may not realize that.
It was
That's a
also
great point.
as you was talking, Christine, I was also thinking about there's also the opportunity to join like G2 creatives together with your own creative. If you're an actual customer of the intent data, because you know that this company appreciates G2 and it's a very recognizable brand. So the ads that you then run on the different platforms can also play on the fact that they have been on G2 already. And if you have a good rating there, the recognizability of the two brands together might put you into a good place in people's mind.
Absolutely. I see folks like, especially if you're in the bottom funnel, like you're at that decision phase, right? And they're comparing you to a competitor. This is the time to strike with customer voice. Like, this is when you should be taking your customer testimonials and sending that as a creative, so that it is reinforcing the value of your solution. This is not the time to ask for a form fill. They're over that, beyond that, right? Like, you need to get the customer voice out there to advocate for your product and for your business. So I love that.
Jay, did you? I know you have had a very granular process for how sales and marketing actually work together on the signals for G2. Can you maybe describe kind of the process that you had in place for who does what when the signals come in?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I think like now most of it is automated outside of the creative, obviously, and we look at the results on a regular basis to see where there's opportunities to improve and optimize. But we started with a pretty simple process that included like a weekly. We have a weekly sync. It's called the tofu meeting, where we bring marketing and sales together to discuss what we're seeing in the market. Are we seeing new competitors show up on demo calls? Are we seeing good success from any of our nurturing campaigns? And that included G2 for quite a long period of time on a regular basis, until we really felt like we refined the motion. And there we really discuss like, how should we prioritize intent signals or buckets of prospects to nurture? What type of content should we align to the signal? What type of content is working? What type of personalization is working? Is individual level personalization working well versus company level personalization? Testing out a whole bunch of different approaches in that sense. And with the advent of AI in the last 12 to 18 months, we've had the opportunity to run a lot of iterations on that. Including doing like custom research using Perplexity, mining the company's website and understanding their features and how they talk about their user personas, and really tailoring the message and the value proposition that we can provide them to their reality. And that's also where we discover that there was a lot of gain from getting very nuanced to what we're seeing in the G2 intent data. At a very high level, changing the approach for top of funnel versus bottom funnel, but then you can get super nuanced and like specific competitors and calling out differentiators and benefits against those competitors. G2 also feeds you the location of the visitor on G2, so that helps with prospecting and identifying the right contacts. Finding a way to identify what Christine was referring to earlier, but like a concentration of intent, and that informs or unlocks another approach. If I have like Chameleon, the customer that we implemented Dreamdata at, sells to product managers. So we have 3 or 4 product managers in an organization. looking at competitive alternatives to a chameleon competitor, that might be the catalyst to reach out to the head of product management and inform them that their team is actively looking and try to position things more from a value driver perspective versus a feature comparison perspective for end users.
That's some great stuff, Jane. I started thinking about some AI ideas that we should probably start to get in place as well. But you're very right that we know what the signal is, so we can tell the AI. We have the signal. We also know the website, so we should be able to say, this is where you go read some information. This is the value proposition of our company, and so forth. So you start to have like the kind of the fundamentals of a decently customized outreach message right there.
100%. Using built with, are they using the competitor already? What other tools in the stack do we integrate to potentially? Yeah, quite detailed.
Because some of the things that kind of when Jay and I, so we obviously we really like G2 and its intent data. But for those that where the switch hasn't really come off yet, why do you think that's it? Or what is the common kind of pitfalls related to intent data that is kind of prohibiting them from seeing like with clarity the value in this intent data?
Yeah, I think when we think about a day in the life of a marketer, you have so much coming at you, and depending on the size of the company that you're in, there could be a ton more. It could be internal politics. It could be like, we just look at how much the MarTech ecosystem has grown over the last 10 years. Scott Brinker has mapped this all out. It's dizzying, right? And so I think the biggest pitfall is the lack of understanding and education around what intent signals are, the different types of intent signals, the different sources of intent signals, and then how do you make a play for each of them so that it is thoughtful. To both of your points around personalization, right? I think this kind of goes hand in hand. The reason why personalization hasn't been overwhelmingly successful yet is because it's hard to find the time to actually think through how you want to personalize your buyer's journey. And when you do, it is wildly successful, but I think it's the lack of time that is the challenge. So having our signals in a platform like Dreamdata really helps visualize that out for marketers and help them understand what signal is the most impactful at what stage. So I think that is the missing ingredient. That has been the missing ingredient for us, is that our signals, they don't come with an instruction manual. And even if it did, nobody has time to read it. So putting it into a platform that visualizes the impact and the next steps that the customer should take is really helpful for marketers to kind of have a speed learning about what to do with the intent signals.
Do you have any kind of general rule of thumb for when what companies are a good fit for intent signals, and like who should, I know you probably don't want to say everybody, but like where's there a good fit between intent signals and a company, and when can it sometimes not be the best fit, just to help people kind of diagnose where they fall in this?
Yeah, absolutely. If you are a software business or a software service provider business, and especially if you're in a competitive category, let's say MarTech as one, CRM as another, you need to have, like, it is table stakes. You need to have intent signals because not only is it going to, and no matter where you are in your company maturity, if you're a small startup or if you're a large, very well-known brand, you need the intent signals to not just capture more market share, but also to defend and protect your market share. If you have a customer that is on G2 searching for alternatives to you 3 months before a renewal, you better get on the phone with that customer. So if you're in a competitive field, you absolutely need intent signals in order to protect and grow your market share. And then for those that I would say are kind of smaller or in a very, very, very niche fields, then there are other tools, there are other data out there that's going to help you. You may not need intent signals right now. And that's kind of how I see it. Is it's not about, to your point, Stefan, everybody can use it. It's not about like if you should, it's about when you should. And I would prioritize intent signals higher up the chain for those that are competing in a pretty crowded space. And that's what's going to be a differentiator for you.
I would almost say as well for the if you're in a not so crowded space, then being able to actually spot when accounts are also in market, that's also very nice, because there's not going to be a lot of competition, but you can actually see that there's people searching for it.
Yeah,
I think from almost any industry nowadays, there's a review platform, whether you're making a pizza or you're running a restaurant or you're selling software. I think just reviews matters more and more for customers, and we've all seen these reports of more and more of the buyer journey moving outside of sales meetings and into kind of research and communities. So if you're not really getting in front of customers early on in the journeys, you might not even get on the list for when the sales meetings start happening.
That's a really good point. And I think if you are in a niche market and you struggle in getting leads because you're so niche, then you do need intent signals, because at least it's a source, right? So I do agree with you on that. And yes, this kind of goes back to like targeting the low funnel when you have so much opportunity to actually drive influence when they're in the consideration or the awareness stage. By the time when they're doing the decision, like the awareness, the influence is kind of gone. It's really more about reinforcing your value and the decision that they're going to make to go with you.
Jay, as a practitioner of intent data, is there any kind of common kind of rule of thumb that you think people should be aware about and like consider when they start utilizing it? When can it go wrong, and when does it really work well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like just from a broader perspective, we're talking about intent signals in general. Like not all signals are made equal. I think that's a very common pitfall. It's like I have a bunch of intent data coming in from ICP prospects. Let's put them into a sales nurture, put them into an ad campaign and drive impressions. So I think the best approach is taking an iterative approach. And as Christine was saying earlier, it takes time, effort, and education to really maximize the results you're getting out of something. And I don't want to get too philosophical, but I think it's human nature to kind of lean on what we know is working. But that's where I see a lot of companies getting stuck at the scale stage. You need to reinvent your go-to-market motion and build new go-to-market motions, essentially, to go from $2 to $10 million in revenue, to go from 10 million to $50 million in revenue. And each of those motions takes time to understand, orchestrate, experiment on, and get to optimal results, essentially. So yeah, I think it's having a clear definition of what your intent sources are, what type of signals are coming in, monitoring the results that you're driving on, actioning those intent signals, A/B testing, brainstorming on how we can get more nuanced or more specific in our nurture, in our messaging. And yeah, if you have Dreamdata and G2, you have all the tools you need to really understand, like you said, the ROI, what's driving pipeline, what's influencing pipeline at what stage, and what the impact of those additional motions or those actions you're taking on intent signals have as well.
Yeah, and I think what you didn't mention there, but is kind of the backbone of this, Jay, I think is there's kind of you call it the weekly TOEFL meeting, but a conversation that takes place between marketing and sales, and making sure that people are actually aware about the signal strengths and how alert they should be when they see the different signals. I think sometimes when we've
Good point.
kind of failed to utilize intent data in our companies, when we haven't been I don't know if training is the right word, but educating the sales team about a sponsored post view is not the same as a category view, and it's not the same as a compare signal. And those things you don't have to jump on, but these things you do have to jump on. So like, I think we, let's call us also the people in marketing ops has a role in kind of educating the go-to-market team in when should you really pay attention to the signals, and when is it okay to not yet get excited.
Yeah, agreed. I'll go back to what I was saying about G2 being unique in its ability to identify companies that are actually in a decision phase. Outside of product signals, I don't think there's anything else that I can think of that are that reliable. Somebody's visiting your pricing page. Like I often do that when I'm looking at a new technology or a solution. Do I even have budget for this before I look into their features and their benefits?
That's true. So coming up to the end here, Christine, I'm really curious to hear what's coming up the next year or two on the intent data front. What are the kind of, maybe there's two parts here. So one is the G2. What are you guys doing? But also what are the kind of innovative, effective ways that you're seeing your customers utilize G2's intent data? And you can pick and choose which of them you wanna be answering.
Yeah, well, let me start. I think I can kind of answer both at the same time. Let me start with just my role and my team. I'm a little bit biased here. I really do believe in the partnership and ecosystem-led growth model. And so the way I see the challenge that we're trying to solve around education in the market, what intent data do and when and how to use them. So I really see our growing our integrations ecosystem as a big lever here. Because I think, Jay, like you're a perfect example of this. If rev ops don't understand your intent signals, nobody else will. And so that should be our target, customer, is like influencing people like you, Jay, because you're going to spread that word across the organization, but you're going to do it in a way where it is systematic and automatic. And that is where our integrations come in. We want to make sure that we don't want you to come into the back end of G2 and spend all your time figuring out the intent signals in there, because we know you're not taking action, right, when you're doing that. We want to take our data and plug it into whatever system of record or system of activation you're using day in and day out from both a sales and marketing function, and have that data available to you in a very prescriptive way that you can take action from. And so from my view of what's coming up next, and also what do customers want and how what makes them a successful customer, is looking at how we can increase and expand our portfolio of partners so that we are getting our data in the most viable way into the system or tools that our customers are already using. So it's part of their day-to-day versus something ad hoc, something on an island that they have to go in and see.
I love it. That's my view on intent signal, and I guess go to market in general in the future. I think the key is orchestration, and the orchestration can only get more refined with the advent of technology. It used to be all rules based. Like I see this signal coming in, routed to this campaign. Now you can get much more refined in analyzing that data and taking a much more nuanced approach using AI to really tailoring your actions to the behavior you're seeing.
Yeah. And maybe it has a quick shout out also to the G2 plus Slack integration notifications that you can also set up for your team, that now that you know which signals really matter, you can also, Christine, is it possible to do to Teams as well, or is it only Slack? We use it for Slack at least.
Right now it is currently just with Slack.
Yeah. But whenever whenever the important signals happen, you can push it right in front of your sales team so they know okay, now is the time to act on this account.
Absolutely.
Sales, or I was going to say, we didn't talk about CS, but it could also be a really good signal for churn prevention.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm speaking to a couple of CS platforms right now about this because this has, especially in today's economy, right? Like retaining your customers has become even a bigger priority than going after net new logos. And so that's definitely an area where we can help out with.
Absolutely. Jay, let's maybe give you, both of you, like 1 minute to give your best advice for intent signals. What would you recommend people who haven't worked with it before, to where they should start paying attention? And just to give you 1 more minute to think, then I'll just say, don't forget to collect a ton of reviews for your product as well, because if you wanna, G2 has a nice organic algorithm as well, and if you wanna make sure that when people hit your category page, that they also exposed to your brand, then start with collecting a lot of reviews so you can climb the ranks of G2. And another thing I really like about G2 is the transparency of that algorithm, whereas the Google ranking algorithm, or how ChatGPT gets its data, can be quite hidden. But there's actually really nice guidance on how is it the G2 scores this organic ranking. So what's it called, Christine? What do you call that that article where you can find the kind of ranking algorithm? Is G2 ranking algorithm, or what should people search for?
Yeah, I think it's the grid algorithm that you should search for, and it'll tell you the what we consider in order to make those evaluations.
Yeah, that's super nice. Okay, now both of you have had a minute to think. So Jay, if you start, what would be your main recommendations to succeed with the intent data?
It might sound simple, but I think the first thing is understanding where your buyers are doing their research and where they're present. And a lot of that, if you can get feedback from the sales team, I think the crux of it is having customer conversations, walking a mile in your customer's shoes and putting yourself in their perspective. Like, where would I research potential solutions to my problem if I had a challenge in this space? And then from there, there's a lot of content on this online. You can find lists of hundreds and hundreds of intent signals, different types of intent signals. And I think I would start with what I would infer to be an intent signal that is indicative of somebody being in market. G2, I'm going to go back to that again, but it's very unique in it identifying people that are actively looking for a solution to a problem. Another signal might be free product signups, or people that are using the product, or multiple visits to your website. I think are a really good place to start. And then, once you're seeing success and you've operationalized taking action on those types of signals, then you can start expanding to other sources.
Wonderful. And Christine, your last minute best advice on how to utilize intent data?
And my best advice is to look at intent data holistically as part of a central vein in your company. We all have heard, like, buyers are mostly through their whole journey before they actually reach out to a salesperson, right? And most of them don't even want to reach out to a salesperson. Like, for me, I go to great length to avoid talking to somebody on the phone. I will chat all day long, but getting me on the phone is a whole different story. And so you have this actually a very large window to influence their decision, but you can't drive that influence if you don't have visibility. And so I think that's the ultimate role of intent signals. It's supposed to show you these different inflection points that your buyer is on. And it needs to be embraced and adopted across the organization. It's not just a marketing thing. It's not just a marketing tool. It is a sales function. It's a whole go-to-market signal, right? And so making sure that you're adopting it not just in a tactical ABM platform, but also thinking about like how do you connect the sales and marketing so that you're swarming around the same accounts that you've both identified as important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you. If people want to continue the conversation with you, what's kind of the best route to get in? If you want to chat all day with you, Christine, what do people need to do?
I can chat all day long, every day. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn handle is like Christine Lee, Li.
And we know the website, that's g2.com.
Right.
What about you, Jay?
Same here. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Get too many emails, so it's definitely the best place to reach out to me. My URL is also jfiliatro.
Thanks for actually expressing how to pronounce the last name.
Very French name, yes.
Wonderful. But both of you, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and to the listeners here today. And yeah, have a great day, everybody out there.
Thank you.